Do you even count your macros, bro?
That may have been my greatest contribution to mankind. Alright guys, Talon from Education Fitness here, and today we're going to be talking about how to calculate your macros. So over my 5 years of counting macros in calories, whether that's trying to slim down for the summer or bulk up and try to put on some size, I really learned is what you eat is just important as how much you eat. So if you've been following the channel, you probably know that calories are the key to weight loss, right? So if you want to lose weight and shred down, you're gonna have to be in a calorie deficit. There's just no way around that. However, the sources from where those calories come from will determine how you lose that weight. Mainly whether or not you're going to gain and put on muscle or even maintaining it to give you that definition, or your body's going to burn it up and use it as energy and amino acids to fuel your bodily functions. God, that was hard. So today we're going to be calculating how much of each macronutrient you need, proteins, fat, and carbohydrates, and all you're gonna need is... I lost my phone again. So all you're gonna need is one of these. So go ahead, grab yours, and let's get started. So now that you got your phone, what you're gonna wanna do is go over to your app store. Weird, let me clear that out quick. And you're gonna wanna type out Myfitness Pal. So it should be your first option, the blue square with the person that's jumping, right? If you have another calorie tracker app that you really like using or you wanna play around with them, go ahead. I think this is the best one. This is the most popular one. It's been around for the longest time and been the most effective for me. But again, choose what you want. If you've never used it before, install it, open it up, and it's gonna bring you through some introductory stuff. So go through that. It's gonna ask you for a premium or subscribing to premium. You don't have to if you don't want. I've never actually heard of anybody using premium before, but if you want to, again, go for it, but I don't necessarily recommend it. So once you're done with all the introductory stuff, you should be brought to a screen like this. You should be on the dashboard tab at the very bottom left. So what we're gonna need to do is go over to more, and we're gonna go here to goals, right? So I've been using this for a while, so I have some information in my goals that I'm using, right? But of course you can put in your own information, right? So first you're gonna need your current weight. So I weighed myself this morning. I was 191.4, and then you're gonna go to your goal weight. So what weight do you want to get down to? So I like to try to get down to 180 personally. And then your weekly goal is gonna be how much, or the rate at which you want to reach your weight goal, right? So I always say 1 pound per week is a good starting point for a lot of people, especially if you're new. It's a good middle ground between going super fast and not wanting to hate your life from not eating every single day, right? So it's a good in between. If you wanna change this later, depending on how you're feeling, go for it. If it's too much, I'm gonna go a little bit slower. But if you feel like you can do more and it's not really an issue, you could probably bump it up a little bit. But we're just gonna start at 1 pound per week for now. And the part that I really want you to really pay attention to and spend the most time thinking about is this activity level. So that's activity level, right? We have not very active, lately active, active, and very active. I keep pointing at my screen like you can actually see what I'm pointing at. So if you're not very active, I'm assuming most people, at least in the US, are not very active, right? A lot of people have jobs where they just sit down all day, and when they get home, they just sit on the couch. Lightly active would be spend a decent amount of time on your feet walking around, maybe like a 50-50 split. So teachers, for example, like I'm a teacher, I walk up and down the hallways, I walk around and monitor the classroom, right? But then I go back to my desk for about half the day, right? So a little bit in between. Active would be someone who walks around for the good most of the day, like if you're a server or if you're like a postal carrier walking around bringing people their mail. Or very active is where you do a lot of heavy, tough physical activity, so, right? So if you're on a bike, you're a carpenter, construction worker, moving all the time, right? That would be very active. So look in the mirror, be honest with yourself, right? So for me, I'm lightly active. If you're stuck in between two, so maybe you think, I don't know if I'm active or I'm lightly active, choose the least or the lesser active one, and that will ensure that you'll be in a calorie deficit. Most people tend to overestimate how many calories they burn in a day. To be safe, choose the lesser active one. And cool, we've just set our framework for what we need to do here. So once we are done with that top section, you're gonna go down to the nutrition goals, where you're gonna see calorie, carbs, protein, and fat goals. So this is where we really get into breaking down what we eat versus how much we eat, right? So when you click on it, you're gonna see 4 different options. You're gonna see calories, carbohydrates, protein, and fat. So starting off with your calories, it's going to give you an estimated amount of calories that you need each day to reach your goal. For this case, I think it was 2143. We're gonna keep it at that just for the sake of this example. So to set up your macros, you are going to just click on any one, doesn't matter, and you're gonna be brought to this part right here. So the first macro that I wanna talk about is protein. Protein is gonna be the most important one of the 3 when it comes to losing weight and retaining muscle. So the general rule of thumb for most people is 1 gram of protein per every pound of body weight that you have. So for me, I was about 190. So I'm gonna scale my protein up to 190. So here I can't get it exact, right? So it's either 187 or 214. So I usually like to be on the safe end and eat more protein than not enough, right? So I'm gonna go to 214 instead of 187 just to play it safe and make sure that I'm eating enough. The next most important macronutrient that you need to take into account is fat. So the very minimum amount of fat that you should have each day, it should be 25% of your calories, right? So a quarter of your calories per day should come from fat, but this is like a minimum to stay healthy, right? So to give a little happy medium, I'm just gonna go up to 30%. If you're someone who wants to do keto, which means cutting out all carbs entirely, you can bring this all the way up and bring carbs all the way down till you hit 100%, just like this. But I'm gonna assume that for this, you're not going keto, so I'm gonna bring it back to 30. And now you can see we're at 70% of our calories in total. So that needs to get up to 100%. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scroll up until we hit that 100%. And once you get that, you're good. Press the check mark to set it. And you're gonna see it now that your macros, or these would be mine, for example, each day I should be eating 161 grams of carbs, 214 grams of protein, and 71 grams of fat. So I just wanna say that these are a baseline. You don't need to 100% follow these to the exact gram, right? So maybe one day you get 140 grams of carbs, but you eat 80 grams of fat, right? As long as your calories and your proteins are pretty much where they need to be, you're gonna be good to go, right? So calories and proteins are the 2 ones that you wanna make sure that you hit at least pretty closely. And then fat and carbs, those can be a little more loose and fluctuate a little bit more depending on your goals, right? Now, the great thing about MyFitnessPal is you can just go to your diary. This will give you a nice little summary of all the stuff that you do. You can see your calories remaining. So if you want to impact that, you can go to diary, and then you're gonna see some options for what you eat during the day, right? So let's say for breakfast, say you have some eggs, right? So if I tap on eggs for breakfast, and let's say you had 2 eggs for breakfast, and hit the check. And now if I go back, you can see that for breakfast you had 2 eggs is 143 calories. So it's gonna take your total amount for the day, 2,143, minus that 143, that's kind of funny, and it gives you an even 2,000 for the rest of the day. So if you wanna check your macros to make sure that you're getting enough protein, carbs, and fat, you can click up on that little pie chart in the top right, and you can see that you've eaten 13 out of your 214 gram goal of protein. So you have a 201 grams left. You've had a single carb, and you've had 10 grams of fat. So this is a great way to make sure you're hitting your protein goals and your calorie goals. And if you really want to be strict with your fats and carbohydrates, really dial in your diet to be as most effective as possible, this is where you need to go. So throughout the day, you keep adding to this. If you need to eat more calories or you need more proteins, more fats, right, you can add the foods that you need in order to reach your goals. So there you go, you just made your very own macro split. So again, this is just a guideline for you to follow. If you want to tweak some of the numbers, lower your carbs. If you really like fatty foods, you can up your fats a bit. If you want to be safe, up your protein, right? And as you go, you can tweak this to your own specific goals. Just make sure that you're hitting your calories and your protein for sure. So if you gained any sort of value from this video, I really appreciate a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next. Hold on. How can you be done? There's still so much left to edit. Wait, who was that? What does that even mean? Bro, I'm the editing version of you. Like, look how much, there's like 7 minutes left. What did you do doing all that? Oh, yeah, look at all that. What's it all about?
Let me check quick. So basically it was just teaching people how to calculate their macros by hand.
So it's just calculating your macros longhand, so you don't need to rely on the app, right? I know some calorie tracking apps don't actually calculate your macros for you and you just have to type them in.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Dang, I'm pretty smart, huh?
Well...
Alright, so now we're going to discuss how we calculate our macros by hand. So if you're good with just staying with MyFitnessPal and you're happy with your numbers, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, like and subscribe. But if you really want to see how your macros impact your calories, or if you're using a different app that doesn't calculate them for you, I know a couple of them you have to type them in by hand. This will be the part of the video for you. So really quick, our first step is to figure out how many calories we burn each day to maintain our weight. So I did a video on this before, so if you want more information on this, I'll pop it up on screen here. However, I have all my information here already. So once you fill this out with your info, click calculate. And the only thing I want you to look at is this big number right here. So for me, it's 2,736. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna write that down really quick. And I'm gonna round it down to 2,700 calories just for simplicity's sake. So now that we have our TDEE, we need to figure out how many calories we need to eat per day to reach our goals. So I'm gonna assume that you're doing the 1 pound per week rule. You need to eat 500 calorie deficit each day. That would put me at my goal calories for my diet at 2,200 calories per day. So now that I have my new daily calories, now we can really start working with the macros here. So if you remember, the first macro and the most important one that we work with is protein. And for simplicity's sake, again, I'm gonna do the 1 gram per pound rule. So I'm about 190, so I'll do 190 grams of protein. If you really wanna bump this up to be safe, right? So some people will go like 1.5 grams per pound, 1.25, right? It doesn't hurt to be safe, right? So each gram of protein has 4 calories in it, right? So if you eat 190 grams of protein, that's going to take up 720 calories from our goal budget here, right? So we have our 190 grams of protein, and that's gonna take up 720 calories from our daily amount or budget, you could say. And that's gonna leave us with 1,480 calories left for fats and carbs. So the next macro I want to work with is going to be fat. So remember, fat is super important for your hormones, especially testosterone. So if you're interested in gaining muscle, losing fat, kind of need testosterone, very helpful. That's why people take steroids to get more testosterone in their system. So again, with fats, it's recommended that you get at least a minimum of 25% of your calories each day coming from fat. So to be safe and give us a little wiggle room, we're gonna go with 30% of our calories coming per day. So if our calories per day are 2,200 and 30% of that, so I do 0.30, so that's a decimal version of 30%. And that's gonna give me 660 calories coming from our fat, which is awesome. But we're looking for how many grams of fat per day that we need. So to figure out what that is in grams, we need to take the 660 and divide it by the amount of calories in a gram of fat, which you've been watching the channel, is 9 grams. And that's gonna give us approximately 73 grams. It gives you a decimal, but I'm just gonna round to make it simple, right? So to get our 30% of our calories coming from fat, we need to eat 73 grams of fat each day. So if we eat our 73 grams of fat, that's gonna take up 660 calories, which is going to leave us with, can't do math in my head till I grew up with calculators, 820 calories left for carbs. So to figure out how many grams of carbs are in 820 calories, right? So we're just gonna fill in the rest of our calories with our carbs. Carbs have the same amount of calories per gram, which is 4, just like protein. So that's gonna leave us with 205 grams of carbs. And there we go. There are our macronutrients. We have our protein, we have our fat, and camera's kind of blocking here. We have our carbs. So again, this is just a guideline for you to use your own numbers. Just follow the exact steps I did with your numbers and you should be good to go. So if you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. I'll try to respond to as many as I can. And yeah, now the video's over. He's actually right this time. To lose weight, you really need to count your macros. Why am I going so much off script? Like, I have it right here. Everything written out.